Okay, so it's 9:32. Let's get going on the material. So here's the format, and as I said, it's going to be really different today. I'm going to read you a number of, in fact, 10 scenarios, and then I'm going to give you precisely 10 seconds in which to think about and decide what you would do in response to that scenario. And we're going to rattle through them, all 10 of them, giving you the scenario in a few seconds to think about it, and then I'm going to come back and review the whole lot. And what would be great is to write down your questions, or at least write down your notes about how you react to the scenario, and then also any questions that you have where you think, gosh, I don't understand why Paul's suggesting that or what that's about. Then write me a question and I can pick it up, and I'll keep an eye on the Q&A pane when we come to that piece. Okay, so here are your 10 different scenarios. So here's the first. So you're in a meeting, a very brief meeting, chance meeting with a new colleague at an airport who works in another country. You only have 5 minutes to get to know this person a little bit. What do you talk about? Okay, so hopefully you've got yourself an answer there. All right, so what do you talk about if you're trying to get to know the person? Okay, next scenario. You know the format now. Make your jottings and we'll go on to the next scenario. Okay, so this time you find yourself in a yes but tug of war with another executive. How do you turn it into a real conversation, a productive conversation, in one statement? Got your head into that one? Okay, let's look at the next one. This one's completely different. You have to give your company chairman some bad news. How do you soften the blow? Okay, got your jottings down. Here's the next scenario. You're in a team meeting and you find yourself losing your cool in front of everyone. How do you turn yourself around very quickly? So you're in a team meeting and you find yourself starting to lose your temper. How do you turn yourself around really, really quickly? Scribble down your answer. Okay, and on to the next one. You're having a heated conversation with your director of finance and you're both starting to lose patience. Now you're trying to show that you've listened in what you say back to him whilst you're making your own point. Why isn't it working? And what should you do instead? I'll give you a moment to scribble something intelligent down. Scenario number 6. You're in a meeting with your team this time, and you want to draw attention to your big point. How do you do it? How do you make sure that your most important point doesn't get lost in everything else? Give you a second to jot something down. How do you make sure that your point doesn't get lost? You really want them to get it loud and clear. Number 7. You have to say no to somebody who's asking you for a pay rise. What are your golden rules? What do you try and remind yourself to do when you're saying no to somebody? Okay, number 8. You're in a board meeting and you only have one chance to explain a pretty complex set of ideas to the board. What do you try to do or avoid? So you're in a board meeting, complex ideas. What do you try to do or avoid? So what are you going to do in that board meeting when you're trying to get those complex ideas across to them? What are you going to try and do or avoid? Okay, here's my favorite. You're leading a team pitching for a really big contract. The client starts to look really uncomfortable. All sorts of emotions start to go across his face. And you don't know what's going on. He looks uncomfortable, but he doesn't look annoyed exactly. What do you do? So you've got that uncomfortable looking prospect and you don't know where they are and you don't know what the faces mean. What are you going to do? Okay. And here's the last one. Number 10. You're in a senior leadership meeting and one of your colleagues, happens to be the sales director, starts to get very defensive when the production director starts getting on his case about planning. Do you hide or do you help? And if you decide to help, what do you actually do? Two people starting to bicker. What do you actually do? Okay, those are the 10 scenarios. You should have 10 sets of scribbling if you decided to take a punt on all of them. So we're going to go back to the first scenario as I said, and go through each one of them in turn and explain our point of view, how we talk about this sort of stuff and what comes up in the core program. So the first one, you'll remember, was to do with how to get to know somebody in a very short space of time. The mistake that most of us make is to start asking people the wrong kind of question. We tend to ask people questions about facts, usually facts about their jobs. And what we end up with is a load of dry responses, in fact, facts about their job. So what we end up with hearing is all about the job and not about the person. So if we do want to understand the person behind the mask, we have to do something different. We have to have a different kind of conversation. One way out of the situation of getting meaningless job type answers is to actually empathize with the other person. We actually replace questions with a piece of empathy or an observation about something that's happened that day. For example, if we've been in a meeting with them, we could ask them how they thought it went or what it was like for them, but we can also point out how they seem to be reacting. You seem to be enjoying meeting everybody today. What you're then going to get is not an opinion about the job, but an explanation of their reactions. You're going to get some feelings and opinions. And that is, I think, the quickest way to get to know somebody. Not to ask them, tell me a bit about yourself, because that's also going to get a staged answer. But it's actually to get them to do something which is, or to say something which is much more revealing than just asking dry job information. And that way you actually get to see the real person. So that's the first thing. Stay away from job questions. So it'd be interesting. I tell you what, I might just ask people to stick up their hands now. Is that anywhere near what people had? Stick your hands up if you had something similar to that yourself, if that's what you were thinking. Or has anybody actually done that? Okay, so Frank, that's what I think Frank does. Sandra as well came up with that sort of thing. Well, give yourselves a brownie point there. You've got the first point in the quiz. So stay away from job-related questions is the thought there. Okay, so here's the second piece. So this is about finding yourself in a yes but battle with another exec. How do you turn it into a real conversation in one statement? I tell you what, I'd be really interested to know if somebody would like to hazard a guess at this one. He'd like to come on come out loud and say, stick your hand up if you think you have an answer to this. I'd like to hear a couple of answers from you. Who reckons they've got a really cracking way of handling this situation, of getting out of this yes but conversation really quickly, in fact with one statement? Okay, Sandra.
Hi there.
Hi, so what would your solution be here?
I'd ask them how, I'd say that I was really interested in understanding how they got to the point of view that they were expressing.
I didn't go. Yeah, I like the sound of that. Yeah, okay, I'll go for that. That's going to stop the yes but. Yeah, I'll go for that. Thanks, Sandra. Anybody else? Okay, so I'm getting a bit of echo now. Oh, here we go. All right. This is how we do it. I'm hoping you're not getting the same sort of echo I am, but I'm gonna blaze on, and Nicola or Matt will come through and tell me that I need to do something different. So what we tend to do to stop all this is to get people to empathize with the other person. So this is another revisit of empathy, where we're thinking, actually it's more important that I pay attention to the other person and why they keep on resisting me. So that's the first port of call. So instead of this person doing something or saying something to do with their opinion, she or he might choose to say something like, you look annoyed. And if we really wanted to do the Rolls Royce, you look annoyed, you seem annoyed that you know that I'm pressing my point. And at that point, the person will then explain and says, well, yes, Paul, I am annoyed. You know, you always do this. You know, we have a conversation and then you turn it into an argument. So then I empathize again. Oh, so you're frustrated with me, Sandra, because this isn't the first time I've done it. Well, no, it's not. And, you know, I'd just really like to be able to have a conversation with you about something without it breaking out into an argument. Now, you can see this, the kind of conversation we're having now is totally different. And we're actually able to talk about the process. And that's where we end up a lot on call. We talk about the process. What's happening in this conversation that's working, and what behaviors are happening or feelings are happening that are getting in the way. So if you want to get out of a yes but exchange in one sentence, make that sentence about them and point out that you've noticed the feeling. So that's that one. Okay, now here was the next scenario, and this was about breaking bad news to the chairman. It'd be interesting to hear someone stick their hand up if they think they had a really neat answer to this one. I know there are a couple of very experienced board people here who spend a lot of their time hanging around boardrooms and boards and executive teams. Does anybody fancy their chances? You have to give your company chairman some bad news. How do you soften the blow? Would anybody like to take a punt at that one? It'd be great if somebody stuck their hand up and will free up their line. All right, so here's how we think of it. The first golden rule for us is to actually, and this sounds obvious, but it is fiendishly difficult to do even when you're very conscious of it. One is to get to the point. Okay, I'm being handed a note here by Matt. Someone's got their hand up. Oh, Jackie's got their hand up. Okay, Jackie's got her hand up. We're going to free Jackie's line up. And let's... Jackie, hi.
Hi.
You sound...
I think that's...
Good, that's all right now.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, I think it's really important not to soften it in a way that you lose the message. It's very easy for people to say, this is the problem, but you're really good at this. And they then go concentrating on it. So you have to be, as you say, get to the point, you have to run, but then come up with a potential solution for them so that you're immediately talking about how the change can be made. But I think it's really dangerous to say, you know, this is a problem, but you're very good at this, because it can be lost. And if you're making the point, there's a reason for making the point, and it's important.
Exactly. Thank you for that one. That is so important. And I suppose one of what you're actually saying, Jackie, is be brave. don't dilute the point, don't confuse it, don't back off from it.
Yes.
Yeah. I like the idea. You sound very helpful in wanting to give help. I'm going to declare an allergy to help, and I'll tell you why. It's not that I don't want to help people, but most often, and this is maybe still in the same vein as what you're explaining, it's actually often the case that people can help themselves really, really well. We just need to give them a little bit of space and latitude to come up with some ideas. And so the way we suggest, or we practice helping each other, is to stay in the room and stay with the person, and again empathize with them if they seem to be struggling with the news. And they always, bad news, a big bit of bad news, people will struggle with it. So we stick around to help them out with it, and that's the way that we give help. Thank you very much indeed, Jackie. Okay. So that's that one. Get to the point, and I'm going to just show you a tiny little illustration here. I know time is marching on, and we'll speed things up. But here's a one way of thinking about it in terms of not wasting time, trying to soften people up. And here's the graph that I often use. If you imagine this is somebody who's, let's say they're very, very unhappy down here, and they're fine up here. Imagine that this graph also represents not just feelings, but it also represents people's ability to think straight. And up here, they are more able to think straight, and down here they're less able to think straight. So if we start off about to explain a point somewhere here, and we say, look, I've got a bit of bad news for you, and we start there, and we shilly-shally, or we tell them how wonderful they are, then what actually happens, they become more and more stressed, until finally we get to the point here only after about 15 seconds, and they've already lost half their ability, 3/4 of their ability to think straight, because they get flooded with neurotransmitters. Their brains just can't cope with the dilly-dallying. So we think it's much better to give bad news or a shock really, really quickly, like here, so that people are still thinking straight and they're relatively unstressed. So for us, it's in the timing, and I also like very much the thought of giving somebody some help to sort things out in their own minds. Okay. So I'm going to press on now with the other situations, and hopefully we can fit in some more of your solutions too. What happens when I lose my cool? So this scenario was about me being in a team meeting, and I was about to lose my cool in front of everybody. Okay, how do I turn myself around very quickly? Well, the very first thing we practice again on the program is to get people to be really honest about their feelings. So most of us are socialized to not share our feelings. We think it's not businesslike. And indeed, it's right. It's not businesslike, it's not professional to do feelings like this little chap on screen is. But he has chosen not to talk about his feelings, not to explain them, just to express them. And we're big fans of explaining the feeling. That way, and if it's done soon, people can intellectualize it and understand it at a business level. And in that way, feelings really can fit into a business context. The big sort of more existential point here is that in being allowed to be ourselves in a business context, we are actually much more resilient. We're bringing more to the organization. We're bringing our personalities. And if we're in anything that involves other people, personality is often what can win the day. It G's people up. It gets them motivated in a tough situation. It wins the confidence of a client. So having a way to talk about feelings in work, in a professional situation, we think is the most valuable thing there is. And that's how to get out of this fix when my feelings are getting too much for me. Okay, a heated conversation with the director. How do we do that one? How do we sort it out when there's this conversation where I'm kind of showing that I'm taking her point, and I'm because I'm talking about the same stuff that they're talking about. Now, often people say that that's how they give evidence that they've actually listened. But here is the clue. What we're actually trying to do, if we're just talking back to the person and, you know, talking about their points as well and their opinions, we're trying to go against the basics of traffic laws, of doing either this or that. In this first scenario, in other words, where I am the white arrow, or we are the white arrow, this is about us making our point to them. What does this sign mean? To me, it means that I can either speak or I can listen. In other words, they have priority. So for us, the golden rule is speak or listen. You cannot do both at the same time to anybody's satisfaction. I'm either paying attention to you wholeheartedly and completely, or I'm having to put you on hold for a little bit to share my thought, my feeling, my wish. If I try and do both at the same time, I'll fail. I won't get my point across properly, and I won't really make you satisfied that I've taken you seriously. Listening is an all-encompassing, all-involving activity. And if we're trying to clarify thoughts and give them simply, then that is also hard work too, and we can't pretend that we're listening. Speak or listen. Okay, and this one, so this one is when we got into this number 6. Yeah, it's in this in a team situation. This is when I'm talking to my team, and I want to draw attention to my big point. It'd be interesting to hear what somebody else has to say on this one. So what's the thinking with the rest of you? I think Katie has an idea here.
Hello.
Oh, here we go. Hello, Katie.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, great. So what I do is I just say it. So I just come out with a message, pause, and you know, then I get on with the next point. So I don't preamble. I just get on with it, and I just say whatever I've got to say shortly, succinctly, and then wait.
And the bit that I really liked of what you said is the pause. For me, the pause, the singular message, mega important, as you've just said, Katie, but the pause really is the killer for me, and it's the thing that most people miss out, often because of enthusiasm, don't you think?
Yeah, I when I have slides, I build in a slide to make me pause.
Ah, clever. Then there we are. We're all listening to that one. Build-in pause slides. Great. Thank you. So that's Katie, and pausing and getting to the point. I like that. So that's really it. If you have a big important message, don't keep talking after you've delivered the message. And I really had to stop myself there. Here we go. Okay, and now to the no. How do we do that? How do we do this no business? This comes up often with clients, and people struggle with it. We all know how to say no, but not many of us have found a way to really make it compelling and, you know, almost comfortable at the same time. So the scenario here is you have to say no to someone who's asking for a pay rise. What are your golden rules? Well, interestingly, Katie said something really important for me just there. The first thing is to not hide behind the no for me. And I suppose I would put this in a sort of old-fashioned sense, is I would say, you know, be brave. Stand in front of the no, and actually, or stand beside it and say, well, this is, you know, this is the situation. I can't do that. And then you give, and this is the important thing for me, one reason. And that's really, really important. One single reason. We have an expression in my household when somebody's providing multiple excuses for why homework hasn't been done, why the shoes haven't been put away. It's, gosh, I sound like a dreadful parent, but the thought is it's either the dog or the flying saucer. Explain. It's either the dog who ate your homework or you were captured by aliens. You don't need both reasons to have not produced your homework. We don't need more than one reason to say no to someone and a pay rise, or anything else for that matter. As soon as we provide multiple reasons, the second reason will devalue the first and vice versa. It's like going to supper at somebody's house and giving them 2 presents. If you give them 2 presents, it immediately means that you thought one of them wasn't good enough. So it transfers to lots of different scenarios. But the news here when you're saying no to somebody is be brave and make the no yours and believe it. And secondly, one reason only. Okay, number 8, it's 10:03. We're just about on schedule here. So let's skip along to number 8 and try and remember what that one was about. So this one was you're in a board meeting and you only have one chance to explain a set of ideas to them. What are you going to try to do or avoid? Okay, here this is quite an involved one. I'm going to crack on with this one so that we don't run out of time, and hopefully you'll feel able to bring up your opinions in a few minutes in the Q&A if you think I'm missing something out. So this one is how to get people to listen up. The mistakes that people make, I'm going to put that up first. I tend to dwell on don'ts, which probably isn't very coach-like, but here we go. When people are saying things to meetings or trying to explain complex concepts, we tend to go too fast, with too much, which is too complex. I've worked with a lot of professional services firms, lawyers, economists. I've worked with lots of scientists, and that almost always happens. The way to get around this is to actually do exactly the opposite of what we've just seen here. So in terms of the too fast, it's pretty obvious. What we really need to do here is to slow down. So the first watchword is go slow. Don't rush yourself. Or them. What you're actually doing is trying to look after their intellects. You're trying to give them a chance to keep up. Be sparing with the material that you share. Some of the most brilliant lecturers I ever had when I was at university, and you'll probably bear me out if you've done the college or university or any other educational route, it was the people who really knew how to make something complicated simple. It's not impressive to explain a load of complex technical detail. It does not make us look good. And in terms of the too complex, we've just got to that. Find a way to explain things in simple terms. People tend to worry the most about patronizing their audiences. My experience is that audiences like having things simplified for them. They tend not to feel patronized. If you're really worried about any of those 3, try it out. If it's an important meeting, it's an important board meeting, it's an important exec meeting, try it out with somebody whose opinion you value. Okay, so go slow, be sparing, be simple. And that gets away from too fast, too much, too complex. Okay, number 9, going the wrong direction. Here we go. Number 9, the crocodile. Crocodiles are notorious for not being very easy to read. So you're leading this team pitch for a big contract, and the client starts to look really uncomfortable. They're not annoyed, they're not worried, but you think, I don't know what's going on there. What do you do about it? What do you do? Any hands up for this one? Anybody who's come across this situation or thinks yeah, I think I know what to do there? Stick your hands up and we'll open up your mic. Abigail has a good idea for us.
Hello, Keith.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. I think that you should pause and ask the client if everything's okay.
Like it.
Because I think that's the most direct way of ascertaining what it is that's troubling them.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Because the worst thing we can do, and what the solution you're giving us, is counteracting this thought of, I'm just going to grin and bear it. I'll get to the end and it'll come out in the Q&A. And actually, it might, but you're going to feel terrible along the way and give a lousy presentation. The pitch will not go as well. So I like your solution a lot, Abigail. A hybrid of that is to actually go back to this empathy piece again. And I know I'm always worried about sounding like a broken record, because I seem to provide the notion of empathy as a kind of a solution to everything. But for me, it really is so incredibly important to stay in touch with what the other person is feeling. So if I was this person and I didn't know how this crocodile was feeling, well, I think I'd be pretty stupid to be staying that close to a crocodile. But if I was, and if I fancied my chances, I would probably say something like, you know, you don't seem very, very happy, or you seem uncomfortable, or whatever feeling I think they're displaying. And even to sort of go halfway there, as Abigail said, you know, yeah, it might be just enough to say you seem curious. I've noticed something, an expression on your face, Mr. Prospect. I'm not sure what it is, or I'm not sure. I can't tell how you're feeling about what I'm talking about. Anything, as Abigail suggested, to park the conversation about the technical stuff and get down to what's going on for the person. The watchword here is guesswork. If you are going to guess out loud, don't just suffer and try and blaze on with the pitch. Thanks for your help with that one, Abigail. And finally, here we go. This one is all about big feelings. What happens when one of your colleagues starts to go off the rails, and you can see that they have the courage of their convictions, they can't help it, they're getting more and more annoyed with one of your colleagues. How do you actually handle that one? Do you stand by or take cover, hope that it's going to blow over, or hope that someone else is going to say something, or do you intervene? So anybody with an idea on this one, or who has actually experienced this and did something that they were able to help and came out of it well. Katie's popped her hand up, which is fantastic. Katie, what was your solution to this? What did you do? Or what would you do?
I mean, I give them a minute to, obviously, a little bit of debate's good, and then I step in and I just say, well, look, all you're doing here is arguing. I'm not sure this is constructive. You know, what should we do next?
So what you hope to do, Katie, is to sort of move them on with a rather intellectual position of saying, come on, everybody, you know, you're arguing this, think about this.
Yeah, well, just give them the opportunity to be able to say, A, obviously, if they're feeling, but B, you know, let's just stop arguing because it's not getting us anywhere.
Yeah, I really like the first. I like all of it. I can imagine that working very well. I'm thinking, if I look at myself, I'm being very honest with you here. If somebody's saying, "Oh, you know, you really shouldn't argue," I think, "Oh God, she's right," and then I'd feel very embarrassed about being spotted and caught out. And then I would probably bluster a good deal because I'm a very proud person, and I might even have a little go at you for intervening. But I think it would probably work. But I think if you mention, I think at the beginning, you know, point out the feeling. Again, that for me is the key. Again, well, there's two directions you can take this. You can either point out the feeling of the protagonist, the person who's got a lot to say, or what you can do is to actually say how you are feeling. So I'm thinking, gosh, I'm sitting here feeling really uncomfortable. I'm seeing two of my colleagues starting to argue, and I want to move the meeting on. This isn't solving anything, and now I'm starting to get frustrated and embarrassed. Actually, I'm going to say that. So I can give the meeting news about how I'm feeling. Listen, everyone, John, Jane, I'm starting to feel really uncomfortable sitting here, hearing you speaking to each other like that, because I don't think there's anything I seem to be able to do to help. And so you can take it in either direction. Anything that helps, that mentions either my feelings or the other person's feelings, I think is the way to go with it. Because really, where the action is in all of the 10 scenarios that we've described is with the feelings. And if we can get used to, and if we can work into our repertoire the vocabulary and the interpersonal skills, and this is what interpersonal skills are for me, to be able to bring feelings out into the light, then they can't control the conversation for us. The conversation stays on the business as long as people have feelings out in the open. The irony is, the paradox is that as soon as we try and shut feelings out of business conversations, they get worse and worse, and then they take over. Thank you, everybody who's helped so far. We've got we're at 1:15 now, and I suppose that's kind of my recap really. But I want to check to make sure that we've what questions are outstanding. So we do have some questions, and I'm going to scroll through those. So if you do have to go, please, thank you so much for joining us today on this webinar. I hope you have a fantastic Christmas, and that you'll be joining us next year either on webinars, which is fantastic, or on one of our programs. The core program, we have one running in March. We have a couple of places left on that. And all you need to do is just ring us up. If you want to know a bit more about it, you can go on the website and download a PDF about it, and we've also made a little film about it. It just lasts 4 or 5 minutes, describing what happens on it, what we do, how it works, how much it costs, and all that kind of stuff. So that's what's going on next year. We really hope to see more of you. If you can stay now, please do, and I'm going to go through the rest of the questions that are in the Q&A pane. There are a few, I think, and I'm just going to make sure that everybody gets something that they wanted. So here we go. I've got one comment here from Jan, which hopefully I'm going to read out. I don't know what has been said here, but I'm going to read it out anyway, and we'll hope it's nice. A great summary. I only joined the webinars in the last quarter and would love to access each one. Earlier ones. I'd also like to know more about the program. Finally, have 1 or 2 staff who have specific behaviours we need help with. Oh, that's fantastic. But so yeah, delighted to talk more about the programs. Do that. If you've got any questions, this is a great moment to ask them. I'll hang around for a couple more minutes. Otherwise, have a fantastic break. Take a great rest. And hopefully we'll see each other in 2015 on the other side, as it were.
Question from Abigail.
Ah, great. All right, so I'm just reading it now. Please, could you talk a little more about how to react when you are losing your cool in a meeting? How do you recommend expressing your feeling constructively? Good one. Okay. So this is about getting to the point very quickly, and it's keeping it very simple. So I'm going to give you some examples of how that might sound. I'm puzzled about where this meeting is going, because we seem to be changing subjects a lot. And I'm also going to write this. Actually, you know what I'm going to do, Abigail? I'm going to write this structure down for you. I'm going to find a little blank piece of screen here. Here we go. Here are the 3 components to this assertive message. First component. I don't seem to be able to write straight today. Oh, hang on, the tablet's not straight, that's why. How I feel. First thing is, how do I feel? Confused, frustrated, I'm annoyed, I'm embarrassed. 2, what is that feeling about? I was embarrassed when you arrived late for the meeting this morning. I'm becoming frustrated that this meeting is going way over time. I'm confused about what we're talking about now because we've switched topics. So can you see I'm the feeling and the what about. Now if I want to be really clever, I can say why. Why am I having that feeling about that thing? I'm confused about where this meeting's going because we keep on changing subjects. I'm starting to feel frustrated about this meeting overrunning because we all had an agreement that we'd stick to time. I was annoyed this morning when you kept interrupting me in front of the client because I think it sent really bad messages about how we work together. Okay, hopefully that's really clear about how to do that. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, and we have another. Nicola also has a question, and I'm just reading it, I think. If you don't ask work questions to get to know someone, what would you suggest? My phone line dropped. Sorry if I missed this. No, you didn't miss it. Okay, so here's what you can do instead. If you don't want to ask work questions, well, there's a couple of ways of going about this. One of the things I think that works well is empathy. You seemed happy this morning. You looked amazed when the chairman said that we're starting to make plastic widgets as well as rockets. So that's empathy is a way of getting people to talk about themselves without asking them, how do you feel? So for me, empathy is the first port of call. It's a very nice, easy way in to having a personal conversation. So that's the first one. The second one maybe is to give them some feedback as well. I was really impressed with how you joined in this morning. I'm really looking forward to working with you. And that second one actually is kind of an opportunity to maybe ask a question along the lines of, tell me, I know we've only got a couple of minutes, but is there anything I should know about how you like to work? We're going to be Skyping and doing a lot of telephone stuff. How does that work for you? Do you prefer Skype? Do you prefer the telephone? How do you want to set it up between us? So it's starting to, as I've depicted here in the picture, starting to get behind the scenes, get under somebody's skin. Hopefully that works for you. Any other questions, thoughts that you'd like to share? If that's the case, I'm not getting any more notes from the other office. So again, thank you for staying on to listen to the Q&A bit. And great having you along. Thanks for participating. Thank you for your ideas, people who joined in. And we will see you all next year, I hope, either in the flesh or through this wonderful medium. Have a great Christmas. Bye for now.